welcome to Trobe Live. My name is Paris Mar and I'm here today with my co-host Mitchell White. How you doing, Mitchell?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good.
That's good.
It's been a nice week. I think starting to get a bit drizzly now. The winter weather's coming back in, but we have had a good run of weather just for the last sort of bit of summer, I think.
It was nice, but it's a bit gloomy today.
Now we have some great stories ahead on the show, including looking at the rising issue behind the use of ChatGPT. And we'll be talking to the La Trobe Student Union General Secretary Rami Al-Jalil on the students' position behind ChatGPT.
We also have a look at La Trobe lecturer Ivo Burum and his journey to becoming a journalist and his continued work teaching people the importance of mobile journalism. As well, we will look at the La Trobe Sports Stadium and the amazing work they are doing to advance their technology and innovation for future athletes.
Now let's look at today's news headlines.
Researchers from La Trobe University and the French National Research Institute for Agriculture, Food and Environment have discovered a new toxin called the SSP toxin, found in bacterial pathogen Serratia marcescens. This bacterial pathogen causes infections in humans and animals that affect the bloodstreams and respiratory systems. The newfound toxin SSP is responsible for illnesses connected with Serratia marcescens. The head structural biology and bacterial pathogenesis at La Trobe, Professor Begona Heras, says the discovery of the SSP toxin can develop inhibitors to reduce the seriousness of infections in humans. The research paper is published in Nature Communications academic journal. You can access the study via the QR code below.
A recent La Trobe University study has found that half of all Australian adults are harmed by alcohol consumed by other people. Over 48% of the study's survey respondents had been impacted negatively by other drinkers and their actions, while 7.5% of respondents said they had been harmed substantially. Senior researcher and co-author of the study, Dr. Anne-Marie Laslett from the Trobe Centre for Alcohol Policy Research, said the consumption of alcohol doesn't only adversely affect the person who drinks it. Dr. Laslett said the study highlights the extensive damage generated by alcohol in Australia and the need for evidence-based policies to prevent it.
La Trobe University will receive an additional $900,000 from the Destination Australia program. This program is designed to promote international and domestic students to study in regional Australia and promote job opportunities in regional communities. The extra funding will create an additional 19 scholarships for regional campuses. La Trobe Vice-Chancellor Professor John Dewar says there are real benefits for students who receive these scholarships.
There are ongoing concerns for La Trobe students' HECS debts with proposed index increases. Although the inflation rate has dropped by 7%, any person with a HECS debt will receive a sharp increase to their student debt. On average, student HECS debts sit at $22,636, which is set to rise an extra $1,500 by the next index on the 1st of June 2023. Although some members of Parliament are pushing to ease debtor payments, the Australian government has held its position and will not freeze HECS indexation.
Bendigo Writers Festival is once again partnering with La Trobe University for this season's edition. A new feature of the program includes La Trobe University Presents, which involves sessions with La Trobe alumni and staff who have published with the La Trobe University Press. Festival Director Rosemary Sorensen says the relationship with La Trobe University allows public writers to attend and contribute to the festival. The Bendigo Writers Festival will run from the 4th to the 7th of July.
The Moat Arts Festival is upon us, and for the first time ever, it is being held across all La Trobe University campuses. Established in 1984, the festival is a mecca for arts, culture and creativity and allows students to share their work and talents with the wider La Trobe community. With events such as Paint and Sip with La Trobe leaders, a twilight market and a karaoke party, there is bound to be something that tickles your fancy. The festival will run until next Thursday, the 4th of May, at all La Trobe campuses. Keep up with all the action in the festival schedule by following the La Trobe Student Theatre and Film socials. Now let's throw to our first story of the show. The rise of artificial intelligence software such as ChatGPT in November last year has spun education institutions into a frenzy regarding the impact it will have on their students' learning. Here's Mitchell White with more.
Gaining 1 million users in just 5 days, artificial intelligence module ChatGPT has made headlines due to its cutting-edge ability to generate human-like text, code, and much more. OpenAI launched the program in November 2022, and by February 2023, ChatGPT had an average of 13 million users per day. With its rise in popularity, academic bodies are increasingly concerned as to AI's effortless ability to generate text and complete complex work for students. While some schools move to ban ChatGPT, other academics are calling to embrace it and integrate it into students' learning.
ChatGPT is a generative artificial intelligence tool. Now, it was released last year in November, and when it was released last year, it just caused a huge chaotic, pretty much a massive noise across the media everywhere. So I think during Christmas, my inbox was completely full in that space. So it has potential to really revolutionize education, though it wasn't built for that. We should be embracing, technologies, but one of the key things is that we should not be having the technology lead us, right, in that direction. I would encourage all students, to be honest, all students and educators as well, to be equipped with up-to-date knowledge about these generative AI tools.
For teachers and professors, the use of ChatGPT in the educational space creates a variety of concerns. With online plagiarism detector Turnitin now working on its own AI detector that will alert assessors if it detects any AI-written material, students will need to give greater attention to the authenticity of their work when utilising artificial intelligence to help complete assessments.
What it does is it enables a human-like response and provides conversational skills. So it's constantly learning and it's constantly becoming more accurate, and it's also becoming more human-like with each interaction that people have with it. It really helps students where particularly they find it very difficult to start an assignment and they put it off. And so by having a few keywords, asking it to do something, it might start them off with a paragraph or two, and those paragraph or two might then help them write more or to go down a different path and do a lot more research.
The official statement from Trobe University was only made to students via a pop-up, explaining that whilst programs such as ChatGPT are useful, any ideas other than a student's own work must be acknowledged. Submitted assessments with any work other than a student's own will result in academic misconduct.
Now we've got another, thing with generative AI coming, and this is something that we cannot ignore. We cannot, ignore. It's something that it is here to stay, and it will only get better, smarter, more intelligent, much more better over the next couple of months, and it's just rapidly changing.
Now we'd like to welcome the General Secretary of the La Trobe Student Union, Rami Al-Jalil. Rami, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Paris. Thanks, Mitchell.
That's
Thanks
okay.
for having me.
Thanks for being here. So what's the general consensus amongst students around ChatGPT?
This is sort of hard to answer because not a lot of students will come out saying, well, I've used it to use my assignment, so forth. But the consensus has been that they've sort of identified it as a tool. I've met students who have said they've used it maybe to gather information, but they'll do their own writing for their assignment. But it's just difficult because no one will really come out saying they've used it.
And how exactly can artificial intelligence assist students with their learning, and what are its benefits?
I guess it can conduct all of the grunt work that one would have to do prior to preparing an assignment. Obviously, it can assist them in writing their own assignment, and I would highly recommend not to do that. But it can definitely do a lot of the, gathering information. It can help you structure your essay if you've written it. It can help you do a number of things with grammar and so forth. So it is technically a pretty useful tool.
Mm. So there's no sort of general consensus on whether you should or should not use it. It's just sort of you got to play it as it comes in terms of what you use it for.
It's sort of up to each individual student on what they do with it. A lot of students at La Trobe probably never even touched it. Some will use it quite heavily. It's just difficult because not many people are going to admit to using it if they've used it to write their assignment. Mm. So that's kind of the difficulty of it.
Do you think that's to do with maybe like plagiarism concerns?
Well, this is the massive problem because the academic integrity hearings at La Trobe, I don't think they're up to date to deal with ChatGPT. It's quite difficult if you're summoned into these academic integrity hearings. You're not allowed to have a support person that can actually help you navigate the rules and things. We at the union provide advocates to go into these hearings. Unfortunately, La Trobe's regulations don't allow any advocates with law degrees to be in that room, and we have 2 of them with law degrees, and we didn't know that prior to hiring them. So that's the situation we're in, and they can't really prosecute a case for you in these hearings. They can only really hold your hand. So what I would stress is that we're not really, La Trobe and are not really ready to actually deal with an influx of cases of people using ChatGPT for their assignments.
Yeah. So on that sort of plagiarism note, are there ways the university or any other ways that to combat sort of getting students to write full assessments and do all of their work for them? Are there ways to combat that happening?
I would say it'd be two-pronged. One prong would be it's here. They should normalise it where it's appropriate to be used, such as gathering information, as I said earlier, and making it quite clear, especially to first-year students as they do their inductions to university, that this cannot be used to create your own assignment. I think that once that's sort of communicated, the second approach is we know that some people will still use it. If they're caught using it, the academic integrity processes need to be up to date and need to be aware of how to actually interpret and find out what's actually been created with artificial intelligence. Because historically, what academic integrity's been, it's been ghostwriters. People used to pay someone to write for them, and they'll submit it with their name on it. But now it's changed. Now we have artificial intelligence writing. So that's what I would stress. The Trobe University should educate people on it and have mechanisms to deal with them as they come.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there, you know how we do our academic misconduct modules and stuff? Has there been a change in those modules yet, and do you think that needs to be implemented?
I don't believe there has been. When I've done it, it's my 4th year at the Trobe, obviously none of that was mentioned in that predominantly focused on ghostwriters and paying people to do it for you. It's a good start for the Trobe to start there. I would emphasise that, especially in first-year classes, that your lecturer and your tutor should be actually communicating that to students. One problem that we're facing is that a lot of tutors are under a lot of pressure. They don't have a lot of time, a lot of them are employed on a casual basis, and a lot of them are struggling to mark assignments thoroughly as they should. They don't get a lot of paid time to do it. So obviously it's going to be a lot harder for them to discern what's been written by ChatGPT and what's been written authentically.
Mm. So you sort of said before that you think we should normalise the use of ChatGPT and similar software. So why do you think this should be normalised in La Trobe specifically?
Well, you can't stop it from being used. So what you can do is be on the front footing saying this is where it's appropriate to be used and this is where it's not appropriate to be used. Because if you keep it underground, well, you lose control of it completely. At least you have frameworks and systems in place where you can identify what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And that way the student can actually navigate that and say, well, I've done the right thing. I've actually done my own work. And they can follow that. Because if it's ambiguous, then it's a free-for-all.
Mm. Well, thanks for joining us today, Rami. It was good to get the views of ChatGPT from a student's perspective. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
An accomplished journalist and La Trobe University lecturer, Ivo Burum has a passion for providing accessible journalism to citizens worldwide. In his most recent journey, Ivo travelled to Ukraine amidst war and conflict to help teach displaced journalists how to report via their mobile phones.
It was a little bit scary. You'd be a fool to say that it wasn't. We had to come and we had to try. We have to try. The worst thing to do is not try, and you don't know what you can do until you try. My name's Ivo Burum and I'm a lecturer here at La Trobe University. I became an executive producer very young and was responsible for developing and show running literally thousands of hours of prime time product across the genres.
He's real, he's down to earth, he has amazing experience and he has to use that to teach it to us. Awesome practical experience that he's had as well as just being really real and down to earth and on our level.
One of the great shows that I've produced would be the series Missing Persons Unit. Missing Persons Unit I developed for the Nine Network, and it went on to become the #1 program in Australia on Thursday nights at 8:30.
Tonight on Missing Persons Unit, a story that touched a nation's heart.
We found 53 people in the first three series. I got involved in mobile journalism because, as I said before, I got involved with what I called self-shot TV. From about 2009, I began travelling around the world, actually, talking at conferences and also training people. We went into Myanmar and we trained people when we thought peace was coming to Myanmar, when we thought that that repressed Myanmar was opening up and it was going to be more democratic and more of a democratic voice. We went in and trained a lot of citizens and a lot of journalists to be able to tell mobile stories. The highlight is that you get to impact the lives of people. When we did the Indigenous workshops, we worked in remote Indigenous Australia in communities, and a number of people that finished those workshops got jobs as journalists in their communities. And more recently, we went into the Ukraine. I was the first person to go into the Ukraine during the current conflict to teach displaced journalists. We were teaching them how to use phones to be able to go back and be able to report. Because the very interesting thing is that when all the power goes down from the missile attacks, the phone towers still seem to work, right? So they were able to keep reporting as long as their phones were charged. And it was tricky because the missiles were coming in every so often, and one day there was about nearly 500 missiles, and they didn't hit where we were. We chose to do our workshops in the hotels, so the missiles weren't targeting the hotels, they were targeting the infrastructure. It's like the Russians are playing a mind game with the people here. Who's going to outlast the other? We found ourselves in the basements of the hotels, sometimes teaching with torches on little headlamps, because the journalists so wanted us to keep teaching, that they said, we're okay with this, we're just worried about you. And we said, well, we'll keep going, but you tell us when we need to go to the shelters. We're in it for the long haul. We're tough, and we know what they're doing, and we're not giving up. Many days you'd find yourself crying because you think it's always good to do something useful. And when you think the skills you have can help somebody else, then you think that's a good day. There's a lot of reasons why I came to university. First of all, being here in this studio where you're interviewing me is where I made my first program, in this studio. So coming back to La Trobe was like the full circle. You know, I love being with the students. They keep me thinking about what I'm doing. When I'm surprised sometimes when they do something really wonderful, really exciting. I love that.
It's inspired me more broadly to sort of develop just like a do-it-myself mentality when it comes to any sort of filmmaking. If you have one person or a small group of people, as long as you're dedicated and you've learnt your stuff from someone like Ivo, you can do just as well.
Inherently, I think we're all storytellers, and I hope that the students from here will go out and be great storytellers. And if you affect one life in your life, that's fantastic. You can think yourself that you've done something useful.
Well, Ivo is certainly an interesting character, isn't he?
He's quite a colourful guy, but what he's doing is pretty noble and it takes a lot of guts to do, so good on him.
For sure, what an amazing story. Now, here we have our sports headlines with Jonty Perry.
Thanks, Paris. It was a weekend to remember for La Trobe Football Club, as the Trobe's premiership flag was unveiled at the Tony Sheehan Oval. The seniors defeated Swinburne by 21 points in their first meeting since last year's Division 4 Grand Final. After being down by 19 at half-time, La Trobe piled on the goals in the third to take control of the match. The Trobers had even more reason to celebrate, as head coach Ricky Nolan played his 100th game for the club, 9 years on from joining. The women's team continued their impressive start to the season, with a 41-point win over the Preston Bullants. Jess Lowry took home the best hit on ground, with an important performance in the ruck. The reserves conceded a trio of La Trobe wins, with a 27-point win at their own. The teams head to Burwood on Saturday to take on Wattle Park. To basketball now, and after a 3-week absence, both La Trobe sides have claimed massive wins in the UBL. The Eagles faced Australian Catholic University at the Melbourne Sports Centre, playing their first games since the 5th of April. The women's side continued their good form, with a dominant 89-54 win, their 6th of the campaign. The men's side grabbed their second win in a row, blowing out ACU 90-54. Both sides will continue this hot streak when they return to La Trobe next Tuesday, as they face University of Tasmania at the Sports Centre. Trobe University is hosting an Introduction to Aussie Rules Football Clinic next Wednesday, the 3rd of May. Presented by Polaris, people get the chance to learn the basic skills of the game, such as kicking, handballing, and marking. Those attending will also be treated to a free barbecue lunch. Spots limited, and registration is closed this Friday, April 28. You can visit La Trobe Sport Facebook page for more information. La Trobe Sports Stadium is one of the leading facilities across Victoria for its sports science technology. With innovation at its forefront, La Trobe is looking to develop groundbreaking technology for La Trobe athletes. Jackson Emery is more.
The Latrobe Sports Centre is part of the growing sports precinct, which is utilised for professional and amateur use. The facilities also aid research in the expanding field of sports science. Latrobe sports analyst and data science lecturer Dr. David Carey is one of many researchers at the university making advancements in sports technology. Dr. Carey is currently working with the Trobe Eagles basketball team for one of his studies on player tracking.
Trying to train machine learning algorithms to detect and track players in team sports. So today we're collecting data from basketball games, but the techniques will work in any sort of team sport.
The player tracking system in the basketball stadium makes Latrobe one of the few places in the country to have such an advanced and expensive setup.
In the stadium here we have receiver nodes set up that are able to receive signals from small player tracking devices that the players can wear in singlets or under their singlets, and that tells us where they are on the court, what speed they're moving at and the acceleration.
While the study focuses on the use for sport, Dr. Carey believes that the findings will further help other areas of AI usage.
A self-driving car is using cameras to detect lines and pedestrians and stop signs, and in sport we have lines on the field and we have players and signs and people are doing actions like shooting or rebounding. Yeah, really anything you could imagine, people and objects interacting that are being filmed, and wanting to be able to track objects through time in video and understand what they're doing. There's applications in lots and lots of different areas. Yeah.
But Dr. Carey isn't the only researcher doing forward-thinking studies. Senior biomechanics lecturer Dr. Kane Middleton also has his share of interesting work conducted in the lab. Dr. Middleton uses 3D motion capture systems to look at the mechanics on how people move and the differences between subjects.
The main piece of technology that we use is the 3D motion capture system. So we attach reflective markers to people and track the way they move. We've also got floor-embedded force plates to measure how much force is going through the body.
The cameras used in the lab help the research team break down cricket batting and bowling techniques and player tennis strokes.
In relation to sport projects, the two major ones that we've done is looking at different grip positions and stroke technique in tennis players, as well as looking at cricket fast bowlers and objective measures of fast bowling intensity.
The biomechanics team researchers continue as they have begun work on two new major projects.
We've been starting to do some work in gait variability and how people walk and the way they vary in the way they walk, and that seems to be quite important for the health of the motor control system. The other one we've got is a currently funded project in combat shooting with the Australian Army, and we're hoping to be able to merge perception and action, and how people perceive information and use information to take action.
The research being conducted at Latrobe is furthering sports science for the better. Jackson Emery reporting from Latrobe Live.
No, it's great to see all the motion capture technology we have here at Latrobe, just to help our athletes grow.
Absolutely. It's really cool to see how assistive technologies can be used in a really beneficial way. We've looked at, ChatGPT and how that can be harmful, but it's really cool to see how we can use it to our benefit.
Yeah, that live streaming technology and those basketball courts will help you relive those 30-point games, I reckon, Jonty.
Nah, it was more 5 points, 5 rebounds. It wasn't much impressive there, but it is good to see AI being used in such a positive way, especially to help with basketball in the future.
For sure.
So thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Latrobe Live. And if you have a story that you'd like to be heard, don't forget to contact us on social media. I'm Mitchell White.
I'm Paris Mar.
I'm Jonty Perry.
Goodbye.